We shall have our study of Raja Yoga. Uh, Raja Yoga is the yoga philosophy of Patanjali, a great psychologist of India. The difference between Western psychology and Eastern psychology is this. The Western psychologists, say Freud or Carl Jung, do not speak about a state of consciousness which is beyond reason. But Patanjali speaks about it. Therefore, one aphorism of Patanjali will show you how Patanjali's yoga philosophy is different from the psychology of the Western world. Although they accept conscious mind, subconscious mind, and unconscious mind, but not superconscious mind. When you reach the superconscious state of your mind, you will realize the truth, and not before. I take one aphorism from Patanjali. Pramana, we want proof. Proof. What is the proof? You ask that question, what is the proof? You say, I have seen it, therefore I can be the witness in a law court. You see. If you have heard about it, then you cannot be the witness. So prataksha, Patanjali, that is called prataksha, anumana, aptabhakya. There are three sources of knowledge. Here knowledge I am talking about revelation. You see. When prataksha, one source of knowledge is that, take for example, our friend is taking video, you see. It is a prataksha, direct perception. You see. The wall, take for example this wall, you see. Yeah. All of us will say we see a white wall. If anybody says, no, I see blue, you contradict, two persons if they contradict, then we take the vote of majority. The majority will say, yeah, you have got some deficiency in your eyes, therefore you are seeing called yellow. A patient suffering from jaundice will see the wall to be yellow. You see. But normal persons will say there we see the white wall. You see. So this is called direct perception. You see. Anything that impinges our senses and goes into our brain center and mind is attached to that, we call knowledge. You see. What we know then is only a reaction of the mind. Perception, this is called sense perception. Then second is called anumana, inference. You do not see fire, but you see some smoke. And then, because the previous experience tells you, jatra jatra manni tatra tatra dhuma, where there is fire there is also smoke. You see. So you will see a smoke. But it may be a cloud. Therefore, therefore you have to ask some person to go there, see for himself. You see. So anumana. The second is anumana. You see, anumana means inference. We do not actually see, but we infer. We infer. When we infer, that also to be verified by called the perceptual knowledge. The perception is the source of knowledge. What we see, we will accept to be real. If it does not contradict past experience of the people, then, but with regard to God, you cannot call that Aktabhakta is there. Here is a God. or the real self of man. The real self, for that man, the real self of man is finite or infinite. Real self of man is sinful or divine. Real self of man is good or born in sin and iniquity. So we find then, with regard to the ultimate reality, which the theologians call God, Patanjali does not mention about God. There is a difference between, Kopilo does not mention about God. There is a difference between Kopilo and Kopilo's philosophy is called Shankha philosophy. And Patanjali's philosophy is called Yoga philosophy. But Patanjali accepts the Kopilo's Shankha philosophy to a great extent. But he has added the word God. So Purusha Vishesha, the one aphorism tells, the Purusha Vishesha is a special person. He's a special, because he is the teacher of all teachers. A guru. She is the guru, Adi Guru, the primal guru. The illumined soul gets that knowledge as if there is any candle well lit, it can give to other candles which are not lit. Therefore Patanjali accepts Shankha philosophy is called Nirisha, without mentioning God, but Shesha Shankha, Shesha. But what the most important thing that I want to speak about, Patanjali's great contribution is Samadhi. His first aphorism starts with that, Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha. Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha. What is yoga? Yoga is, then commentator comes, Yoga Samadhi Sthiti. A yogi is one who has attained super conscious experience. And so it is not enough the three states of consciousness, what you call waking, dreaming, and the state of deep sleep, are conscious, subconscious, and unconscious, but you have to reach a super conscious state. You see. Then now, when Patanjali accepts Shankha philosophy, if you want to understand Shankha philosophy, you have to understand two key words. One is called Purusha, another is called Prakriti. Purusha, Prakriti. Now, Prakriti is a compounded reality. It is three gunas, guna trigunatmika. Another name of Prakriti is called trigunatmika. Nature, you call Prakriti, you call nature, all right? But nature has three strands, or three forces are combined. As you say, scientist, great scientist, Einstein, you see, called unified field, means electromagnetic field and gravitational field. You see. Although the scientists of 20th century, after century, are talking of weak reaction force and strong reaction force, therefore. But anyway, main two forces, Einstein, called unified field, it's like that. When you speak about unified field, it is also a compounded reality. So Shankha philosophy is taking the psychological method. And Einstein is taking the objective method. And the scientific, therefore, in the psychological method, there you find that three forces are sattva, rajas, and tamas. The force of tamas is inertia. Inertia means anything which is solid, anything solid, you can call, like rock of Gibraltar. They are the predominance of called tamas. then rajas, if you want to say, rajas, it is tremendous activity, but it creates called restlessness. When your mind is very restless, that means you are overpowered by rajas. When I say overpowered, I mean the sanskaras. Then you have to think of the conscious level is dominated by the impressions of the subconscious mind. And these impressions are called the seeds, sanskaras, seeds of previous experiences. All these previous experiences are stored up in your subconscious mind, and they have tremendous force, tremendous power. 1st of January, you make a resolution that I will not incur any debt, you see. But after a month, you have to ask somebody to lend you some money, you see. Why? Because you made that resolution, but the sanskaras tell you that you did not consult us. And we are trying to oppose your thought or idea. So anyway, this is therefore spiritual life means cultivating good sanskaras, so that you will spontaneously think good thoughts, holy thoughts, and do good actions. By the word good, I mean unselfish action. Any action that you do for the good of others, with an unselfish motive, it will be called good. So anyway, the mind, therefore, mind sometimes becomes restless. That means these rajasic sanskaras are prevailing upon the mind, and the conscious mind is helpless. Then similarly, tamasic sanskara comes, then the thoughts of destruction. Committing suicide, take for example, a person wants to commit suicide, life has no meaning. What's the good? What's the purpose of living here? You see, that means tamasic sanskaras. Destruction is the theme of tamas, means darkness. Tamas means darkness. Rajas also thinks in terms of accomplishment and success, name, fame, power, position. Rajas thinks. So this modern civilization, if I am to say, it is a Rajasic civilization. It thinks that it achieves success, be a man. But this Rajasic civilization cannot be the ultimate civilization, cannot be the spiritual civilization. In a spiritual civilization, calmness of mind. Majority of the people will remain calm. When you think of a golden age, that means the predominance tendency of human beings, especially the teachers of religion, are calm, dignified, well established in certain principle of life. So here this is therefore the evolution. When you say, as you think in the external world, there is evolution. First was called matter and energy. Afterwards the life came. Then afterwards the instinct of animals. Then human beings. You see. But the greatest evolution, according to Chardin, omega consciousness, illumined soul. If a civilization progresses farther and farther, then you will find illumined souls will be visible in this planet of ours. So for the spiritual aspirant then, he has to cultivate by following certain method inner tranquility. And peace of mind. But this peace of mind will not come until one follows the method. And the Patanjali's method is sanjam, self-control. Not freedom to the senses, but freedom from the senses. Man is greater in the scale of values by only one thing, that he has practiced self-control, self-discipline, self-training, self-education. It reminds me of Shankara's student asking this question. He said, who is the greatest man in the whole world? Not Napoleon, nor Alexander, nor Caesar. Napoleon says that. Napoleon speaks of this. Today on the throne of France, tomorrow food for worms. That is the fate of all politicians. Charles, he speaks about Caesar, Alexander, Charlemagne, or this and that, including myself. But when he talks about Christ, you see, today a carpenter says tomorrow he is worshipped by millions. Why? Because he has absolute control over his mind as well as senses. He had what you call self-mastery is necessary. You see. Yeah. Take for example Sri Ramakrishna. You see. He lived in this world of ours, but he has absolute control over his senses as well as mind. That is his teaching. So he had this called the abhyasa vairagyam. Mind is restless because rajasic impressions are prevailing on the surface mind, because these impressions they come out when you have made any decision, or when you are trying to meditate. These impressions come, you see. And therefore abhyasa, pay no attention to negative thoughts, only think noble thoughts. Therefore called abhyasa, constant practice. And vairagya means practice detachment. But both Kopila as well as Patanjali do not accept mind to be the principle of consciousness. Western philosophers, they all think the mind is conscious. You see, there is a saying called, what is matter? Never mind. What is matter? Never mind. And what is mind? Not matter. This is not true. Anything that changes is material. As body is constantly changes, is called the gross matter. Mind is subtle matter. So, mind is not the seat of consciousness. Mind is like the moon, which shines by borrowed light, but sun shines by its intrinsic light. The sun has the property of consciousness, but not moon, you see. Then when you use the word mind, English word is mind, but in Sanskrit they use 4 words. Manas, buddhi, chitta, ahankar. 4 ways, you see. Manas means sankalpa vikalpa. When you see the drama, to be or not to be, that is the question. Hamlet. That is manas. Yeah. So today, whether I should come to the class or not, you are hesitating. Go away, as it were. You are not sure. That is manas. Sankalpa, vikalpa. Oscillating, pros and cons. But decision is made by buddhi. Therefore buddhi is called the power of intelligence. Nischayatmika buddhi. You see, it has the power to decide. Decision is made. And the chitta is the storehouse of previous impressions. You cannot know anything unless you refer to the impressions of the past. You see, like different pigeonholes. You see, and mind has to refer to that. Anything that is new, immediately the mind creates a rebellion, as it were. Therefore, conservatism is the natural tendency of human beings, because anything which unhinges the mind, a new way. We are trying to put in a new groove, as it were. Mind wants to go through the old rut. Yes. And so new, and spiritual life means you are thinking new passages to be created. That is the reason why when I talk about Shankara, some people feel, you see, that this is mere idealism. It is not real. You see. That there is an Atman, there is the real self of man, which is pure, which is stainless, which is perfect. That's the Atman of which Shankara speaks, Patanjali, or Shankara speaks of Purusha. Purusha means the spirit. Nature is for the spirit. The nature is like a book. We have to read that book. And what we learn by reading? Detachment. Attachment is the source of bondage, and detachment is the source of freedom. You see, just like when you become detached, I see the most detached person in this country are the real estate people. You understand? Why I say that, I have seen the real estate people, they take in your car, you see. They have a nice car, sir. Yeah. They want the catalog, one which, no lady, this lady. Yeah. So you find they take you in the car, show you, you see, wait for you if you are a little late, so everything is there. But and worked up all kinds of plans that your money will come. Don't worry about money. Just only by installment and that. But afterwards you find he says, no, I cannot take it. So what can they do? Still they carry on, because this is business. So anyway, detachment, but that is another kind of detachment. Real detachment comes when you know that everything that changes does not belong to me. My real nature is changeless. You see the changeless principle of consciousness in the midst of change alone can attain called liberation. Aptavakya, that is a third thing I have not mentioned. Aptavakya means the words of illumined souls. Why should I accept their words? Because they, as I see this world, and I see it is, world exists, you also will say, called subject, object, this one. But they have reached a state of concern, subject and object are identical. The essence of the world and essence of our psychopathy are identical. And so that is a state of consciousness. That's a state. And therefore Patanjali calls it Nirodha state. In order to have that Nirodha state, you must first cultivate Ekagra state. Patanjali speaks also, Murha first. Murha, Skipta, Vikshipta, Ekagra, Niruddha. There are 5 states of the mind. Murha means deluded state, tamasic person, you see. Tamasic person. Because life has a great meaning, has a purpose and a goal, but he wants to put an end to his life. Murha, deluded, confused. So that is Murha. Skipta is a person who has rajasic tendency is there. Skipta is doing, sometimes is very calm, but is agitated. Vikshipta is distracted. Too many ideas there. He has no definite plan. Sometimes he said, I want to real estate business. Another time he said, I want to study. Third time he said, I want to go to Fiji Island and take photographs and give to National Geographical magazine. There is no kind of definiteness, you see, called vikshipta. But the sattvic state of mind, when mind becomes calm, it means you want to live a pure life. That is sattvic state of mind when you are trying to control your passions, your appetites, your sensate life. We call Vishya Trishna, thirst for sense objects. Shankara calls it, it is a mirage. The mirage idea, Sanskrit mirage idea, comes from Mriga Trishna. A deer in a desert sees water and runs and runs and runs. And then buries his mouth in sands. It is like that. The Bisha Trishna. It is like a Moru Morichika. Moru Morichika. You see, in a desert, it is like finding water in a desert. You see. So Bisha, why? Because it does not last. It has a beginning, it has an end. You see. And so Patanjali is talking about, you see, it is through discrimination you try to find out what is the nature of happiness which is produced by the combination of senses and sense objects. It has a beginning, it has an end. But if you want permanent happiness, then you withdraw your mind from sense objects and fasten on the reality within. The kingdom of heaven is within. And therefore your real self, and the real self you will not recognize, even the existence of the real, without purity of mind. And the definition of purity is singleness. Singleness. Therefore, you see, this sattvic state of mind is something like like you are seeing your face on a mirror, and that mirror is spotless. Then your face will be clear. Similarly, you find the ekagra state creates purity of mind. Ekagra, one-pointed of mind. Scientists also develop that power. But why do you not call a scientist a yogi, an illumined soul? Because his concentrated mind, he focuses on the object. And object is always finite. Object is transitory. Object is also unconscious. It is a prakriti. It belongs to prakriti. And therefore you have to, aptavakya means the concentrated mind, you have to focus on the subject, on the indwelling spirit. And the nature of the indwelling spirit is, according to Shankar philosopher, because it is not a compounded reality of akasha and prana. Akasha is something like matter, prana is energy. It is not a combination of matter and energy. Therefore, the Purusha or the spirit is infinite consciousness, infinite bliss, you see. And so Patanjali is talking about the ekagra state. The concentrated mind. First you have to practice sanjama. As for example, the rays, I shall give from nature. Rays of the sun go in different directions. It loses all power. But through a lens you focus, through a lens, and you put a little piece of paper, it will burn. You see, it is a concentrated power of the rays of the mind also. It is divided. The mind is divided into many parts. You see. Yeah. And now when through concentration, one thought, one idea, one goal, one objective in life, you see, concentration is necessary. So you find that rays of the sun, I'm talking, and also you find the fall. Take for example a fall, Magnuma Fall or Niagara Fall. If you can collect water, if you can collect that through an embankment, through a dam, then you conserve. That is something like conservation of energy. The conservation of energy, you see. Yeah. And then you can use it by generating station. If you go to that, turbines are working, but the engine room is very calm, very silent. So in the midst of tremendous activity, you must remain calm. How? Through detachment, practice of detachment. Detachment is not indifference. Detachment means keeping the mind on the ideal. That ideal is liberation, kaivalya, liberation, freedom from old age, freedom from disease, freedom from death, and freedom from tension, freedom from loneliness, only freedom from cultivating meaninglessness of life. Life has a great purpose, and that purpose is through conquest of nature. Science has conquered external nature and made tremendous progress. Similarly, you conquer internal nature, you will be an illumined soul. Your words will come true. You see. That is apta bhakti. Apta. Apta means not inspired. Swami, inspiration comes from outside. Attained. One who has attained. One has reached the goal. One who has attained called nirvana. You see, one who has blown out all the desires, material desires of this ephemeral life. You see. So now meditation is a very important thing. The meditation. Patanjali, the pratyahara, first he speaks about pratyahara in Ashtanga Yoga. It's called first is Jama Niyama. Jama Niyama means ethical virtues. Building up one's character is very important. So then comes asana, you have a posture. Then pranayama, a little breathing, rhythmical breathing, asana, pranayama. Then pratyahara. This comes. This is withdrawal of the mind from periphery and fastening to the center, like a tortoise. Tortoise movement, when there is any fear, immediately he will tug all its limbs inside. You see. Yeah. The pratyahara means not allowing the mind to be moving towards the objects, keeping the mind within the framework of the ideal that one is cherishing in one's heart. You see. But then come dharana, dhyana, samadhi. These are the three very important. Dharana is meditation for a short time. But deep meditation is called concentration. The dhyana is avichinna toilodha. Therefore Patanjali's great contribution is dhyana. That word dhyana is a Sanskrit word. It went to China, it becomes Chen. And went to Japan, it becomes Zen. You see. Dhyana is amazing. Dhyana means when you want to meditate, then you have to understand what is dhyana. Pratyaya ekotanata dhyana. Pratyaya ekotanata. All the different thoughts are there, but they are creating harmony. You see. It is not that you simply closing the eyes you are meditating. Your mind has been trained in such a way that it is not thinking of sense objects, but thinking of God, the infinite being, who is seated in the heart and giving power to the mind to think and body to live. Antarjami. Antarjami, the idea is Antarjami, inner ruler, immortal, seated in the heart. So dhyana is avichinna toilodharapa. Just oil poured from one vessel to another. There is a continuity there. Similarly, one is from morning to evening, from evening till one takes time to rest. Therefore, 2 times are very good for meditation. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Shakal Sandha. Shakal in the morning. It's called Sandhi Murta. You see, the junction between day and night. I mean, start the day with meditation. Yes. And end the day also with meditation. When before retiring, they also meditate. But evening time is, when Sri Ramakrishna says it is evening, then if you want, you can do before retiring also. But this also, it should be empty stomach, before breakfast and before supper. Empty stomach, meditation is good. And also one has to create a habit. Not today doing at one time and then another day, another time. Then habit cannot be formed that way. What you do, the same thing repeatedly at the same time will create a habit. The moment you change yourself, change your time, then again you have to go into that mood. It's somewhat difficult. It is why I am talking about the beginners, but advanced soul does not matter. So this, when one meditates, one can meditate according to one's own wish, by reading a book. I read Radha Yoga, one can meditate, or Bhagavad Gita, so meditate. But usually the method is from a teacher. One has to get a mantra, a sacred word, you see. The human teacher becomes the conduit of the great wisdom. You see, just this bulb, because it is connected with the powerhouse, it can give light. You see. Similarly, one becomes that person, but the teacher must be a man of character. He must be able to control his own thoughts, desires, emotions. Otherwise, it will be just like the blind leading the blind. You see. Therefore, the teacher must be an experienced person. Therefore, it's called Sotriya or Brijina or Kamahata, Brahmavittama. He knows the essence of the scriptures, he lives a sinless life, and imparts his teaching without any ulterior motive behind, and he is a man of God. Yes. So anyway, this mantra, the relationship between the guru and the disciple is established through the mantra, the sacred word. You see. And although the relationships are established, but the seed has been planted. But the student has to water that seed. And watering the seed means performing japa. Japa, repeat the name. Patanjali speaks of tad japa, stadartha bhavana. Although Patanjali's mantra is giving Om, tasya vachaka pranava. The ultimate reality, his name is Om. Om. The Om can convey the idea of personal God or impersonal God. But anyway, he is being a scientist, he will not give specific instruction. Specific instruction is taken only from an illumined teacher, you see. He gives only general advice, you see, a general advice, because it is, so he is given Tosya Vachaka Pranava. That means one can repeat Om, that is it. Then, but usually when the teacher gives it, they call Ishta. You have to, two words are very important. One is called Guru, another is Ishta. Ishta. Ishta means chosen ideal. You see. Ishta is the symbol. Ishta is the symbol of individual soul who is spiritually awakened and wants to realize God. It is this individual soul when is free from all worldly taints, then the individual will identify himself or herself with Ishta. Ishta is the Shakti. Usually Shakti mantra is the Ishta mantra, is the Shakti, the Divine Mother. You see. That is something like Shaguna Brahman. Shaguna Brahman. And the Guru is the symbol of not Pratyagatman, individual soul, but Paramatma, universal soul. You see? Because this universe and then the background of the universe, we call that the spirit behind this universe. That is universal soul. Symbol of universal soul is called the Guru, and symbol of individual soul is called the Ishta. And therefore meditation on the Ishta, the purpose of meditation is awakening the spiritual consciousness. The spiritual consciousness is asleep, means spiritual consciousness is in a potential state, and one has to awaken, means potential state is to be made kinetic. You see. So therefore they call Kundalini Jagarana, awakening of the spiritual force which is lying asleep. Therefore it is only through Jama Niyama this can be awakened, not simply through Pranayama. Not through Jama Niyama, means ethical living is very important. You see. Purity of life is very important. You see. Then alone the Kundalini will be awakened. That they say that the Ira and Pingala, normal activities are done through other two channels, Ira and Pingala. But the Shushumna, The Sushumna, the central canal, is closed, but it is to be opened. You see. Then higher levels of consciousness will be attained, and there also different experience will come into the consciousness of the individual sadhaka. You see. So it is said that when the Kundalini is awakened and through meditation and his mind is well concentrated, you see, then the Ishta Darshana, then one will have a little glimpse of the chosen ideal. Chosen ideal. Yeah. But Darshana means experience of God. So you can say when it comes to the Brumad, in the throat center, when it comes, one feels that called Vishuddha. He feels that he is absolutely pure. He is not a material being, but a spiritual being. And then they call Agya, Vishuddha Agya, that is called Shavikalpa Samadhi. It is something like Ekagra. Patanjali, when he says Ekagra and Nirodha, Ekagra or Sampraghata Samadhi, that is called communion with God, personal aspect of God. One feels the presence of God, that I belong to Him, and there is no doubt in my mind. It is not an imagination, you see. But it is better to also cultivate imagination. Today's imagination is tomorrow's realization. You have to imagine that you are moving towards the goal, and you have been blessed by the Ishtam. The Holy Mother has blessed us. Sri Ramakrishna has blessed you. Yeah. But the highest realization, which we call it the Shasrara, the 1,000-petal lotus in the head, Shasrara. There is the star. That is the center of the Guru. The Guru. Then the individual soul merges, like a river merges into the ocean and becomes one with the ocean. That in Vedanta it is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Patanjali will call Nirbija Samadhi. Nirbija, seedless. Seedless. You have got seedless grapes. Seedless grapes. Similarly, seedless Samadhi. Seedless. Seed. When you think of seed, always think of desire. Seed of desire. The worldly desire. If there is worldly, that the ego is there. The ego is there. The seed means desire. And when there is a desire, then it means that you have subtle desire to enjoy these material pleasures of life. You see. Therefore, one can control, call gross desire. You see. But subtle desires are very hidden. You see. And that is why in Bhagavad Gita, Vishya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha. If one lives in a religious community, then the sense objects fall off, because life is very restricted. You see, restricted life, and so you see, Vishya, the sense objects fall off in a self-abstinent person, but not the longing for it. We call that Rasabhajam. Rasabhajam. It falls off, no doubt. You feel that I have no desire, I have no desire. But no, the subtle desire is there. Subtle desire is there. Rasavajjam. But that subtle desire will go away. Param Drishtva. When one realizes God. When one realizes one's Ishtam, chosen ideal, to be eternally pure, eternally perfect, and eternally good, you see. So, and this is the Patanjali is speaking that a spiritual life has its charm, has its beauty, but is to be practiced under the direction of a wise teacher, and also with a strong determination not to give up in spite of problems, difficulties, and obstacles. You see. The obstacle, obstacle will be there, the obstacle, because the mind has already created certain sanskaras. To take them away is not an easy thing, but it can be done with determination, with unflagging, if one practices the spiritual method with unflagging zeal and earnestness, one can liquidate all the negative impressions and bring into the domain of his mind noble, holy and meaningful impressions which will be beneficial for the aspirant to reach the goal. So therefore this idea that there are four obstacles. In the books on yoga, there are four obstacles there. You see, although Patanjali speaks about also, they are called five. Avidya means ignorance, asmita, sense of ego, raga, attachment, desha, aversion, clinging to life, and fear of death. But in the Vedanta Sar, you will see the four obstacles are spoken in a little different way. There is because when you are practicing meditation, you are advancing, no doubt, but all of a sudden mind becomes dry, and one feels that I am not doing anything which will be good for me. Probably give up. Yeah. Now meditation is not for me. So these are all, the four obstacles are loya, kashaya, vikshepa, rasashada. Four. Loya means torpidity. One has done, says, oh, I have done enough. Yeah, I can't do anymore. Loya. Just like mountain climbing, one goes to sleep. Yeah, well, yeah. That means he is going to be frozen. And that is death. And so one has to generate energy, not to be lagging behind for a long time or giving up the adventure. The spiritual life is an adventure. Laya. Then called kashaya. Kashaya means one is meditating, subtle attachment is there. Maybe for grandson, or maybe a nephew or a niece, or maybe even for a cat. So this is kashaya, or is there. They are called hidden attachment is there. You see. Sometimes mind goes towards that. The one is doing all this meditation. Why all that? Let us do some philanthropic activities. You see. Let me do good to the world. This is doing this. I am doing just wasting my time. If I go, it will be all right to do good to the world, but have you got the capacity to do good to the world unless you have done good to yourself? You see. And so, yeah. Or one has got anger. Yeah. One, resentment is there. But he is not trying to sublimate it. That creates an obstacle. Yeah. Vikshepa. Vikshepa means different ways of vikshepa there. Yeah. Vikshepa comes, you see, when he is meditating, then the kind of phone call comes. At that time one should know that any kind of phone call comes, I am not going to answer. Let somebody answer. So different kinds of vikshepas there. Vikshepa means distraction. Distraction comes because one wants to live a life of compromise, not a life of resistance. And therefore these and then rasashada, enjoyment of bliss. Enjoyment of bliss means one gets some kind of power, some kind of psychic power, I can call it. Yeah, one can heal somebody, one can tell what has happened to him in future, you see, like that. So these are called extrasensory perception, telepathy, all kinds of things, you see. So, or you may say a little enjoyment in meditation. One finds meditation is quite good. He finds that, and he feels that I have been illumined. I need not have to meditate anymore. No. Now I go and teach people how to meditate and how to be spiritual and how to be illumined. Now he thinks that I am no longer a student. I have become already a teacher. You see. That one boy came in Tobuko. He won't do anything. He will not go for meditation. No, he's always in the library. Right. So I said, here you come when you are Rome, you have to do as the Romans do. You are constantly reading. I have no objection to your reading. There is particular time and all that. Then I said, I'm going to write a book. I say, what will be the title of a book? He said, How to Become a Saint. Then why don't you become a saint and write? You see. So anyway, people who have got great ideal, but does not know how to accomplish that ideal in life. So how to become a saint? You see, who can write? One who has already been a saint. Then from his personal experience, then the world will accept. You have to become a saint by reading some books, and you just jot down. That will not work. The world will appreciate only those words of wisdom which have emanated from a heart which has been filled with the consciousness of spirit and has the direct vision of God in a higher state of consciousness. The world will listen. And so experience alone can give us assurance, can give us certainty, and can give us also definiteness in our life. So that is the reason why Patanjali is talking about that. Why not Patanjali stop with ekagram? You see, when he says mudha, skipta, vikshipta, ekagra, concentrated mind. You see, but for this reason, in an ekagra state you are creating a wave, thought wave. You see, and so anything that you think, if you have attained, it is still a reflection. It's a reflection of the reality. In a niruddha state, your mind has disappeared, or your mind has merged in the Atman. Because mind, what you call mind, it is a vritti. So any vritti is there, it will be only a reflection of the reality. It will not be the reality itself. But in nirodha state, ekagra and niruddha is a niruddha state. It is mind has merged. You see. But only one thing I have to say is this calls superconscious experience when a man has reached. You see, what is the sign? The sign is that chinna sangsha. All his doubts have been broken into shells. And he will be a universal man. He cannot think that I belong to this church or that church. No. All limitations of human personality will disappear. You see. And also, this wisdom will bring him to understand that he has to be an exemplar to the rest of mankind or to his fellow human beings. So this is for service, for the service. You see. Service means that also illumining the heart of souls that are seeking light in the midst of darkness. You see. So the apta, then the word apta, the one who has attained. Attain what? Attain the goal. What goal of what? Of kaivalya, independence. And that is therefore one aphorism says, tada drashtu sharupe avasthanam. That is one he has attained that asampragyata samadhi, or attained that called oneness with Purusha or Brahman, you see. Sharupa avastha, he realizes his true self to be perfect, immortal, divine and pure. Vrittisharupam vitaratam. One who has not attained that state of consciousness, what will happen? He is identifying himself with the thought waves of his mind. It has become, as it were, a victim to his mental thoughts, waves, dispositions, and tendencies. You see. But here the Apta is a perfect master of his mind. Because mind belongs to Prakriti. Yeah? And therefore he must detach himself from Prakriti. Even the pure mind is not the reality. The Purusha. The Purusha. Purusha means the Atman. He has realized his own Atman. And one he has realized, he is established. He is established in his called ground of existence. Master called ground of existence. So here you find in Bhagavad Gita, we find that similar statements have been made by Bhagavad Gita. Labante brahma nirvanam rishaya skina kalmasha chinna dvaidha jatatmana sarva bhuta hite rataha. First is, as it were, one is trying to reach the goal. And second stage, after reaching the goal, he distributes the wealth of spirituality, the pearl of great price to the rest of mankind. You see. So, Lavante Brahma Nirvanam. What is called, here Patanjali is talking about Kaivalya, but in Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Nirvana, identification of Brahman. That my individual soul is absolutely identical with the universal soul. You see. Brahma Nirvanam. Lavante Brahma, Risha, sages. There he is not making a distinction between men and women. You see. Here only a state is important. The state of samadhi, of asampragata samadhi, or nirbija samadhi. That state is important. You see. Labante Brahma Nirvanam Risha. Risha means seers of truth. Seers. There you have got a candy called sea. Sea is candy, you know. So one who takes that candy, one will become a seer. Sea is candy, you see. Yeah. So, but it is not that way. Simply by candy you cannot be a seer. Only samadhi. According to Patanjali, you must go into samadhi. Means beyond the intellectual plane. Not reason. Remaining in the plane of reason will not give you that. You have to be beyond reason. You see. So, labante brahma nirvanam rishya skina kalmasha. All their blemishes are gone, all means imperfections. You see. No attachment to things that change and pass away. They are established in the truth, which had made them free. You see. Labante brahma nirvanam rishya skina kalmasha means purity of life is very important. To teach, call mathematics or chemistry or even astrophysics or anything, importance is not given to Kshina Kalmasha. The personal life must be blemishless. It is not necessary there. In educational field, if you have got a brilliant intellect and you have worked with great interest, that is enough, but not in spiritual life. That is the difference between science and religion. You see. In science, intellectual curiosity, you satisfy intellectual curiosity, or give a kind of encouragement to do some research work in some new field, all that. But in spiritual life, it is quite different. Personal life is very important. Personal life must be blemishless, and a person must be following the path of renunciation. And not only the path of renunciation, he has to experience the truth. But it must be a man of realization, as our master, Sri Ramakrishna. Why? Anybody reads the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, finds here is a person who is an authentic man who has realized the truth in his own life. You see. He did not say anything which he has not experienced himself. So here this difference between science and religion. Not only science and religion, politics and religion. Not only politics and religion, any other field of activity. This is apara vidya. Their character is not so important. Intellectual wisdom is enough. But here, blemishless character is sine qua non of spirituality. No person who has called purity of character will be able to convey words of wisdom to mankind. You see. So anyway, Lavante Brahma Nirvanam Rishaskhina Kalmasha Chinna Dvaita, all their doubts. Doubts come when you have not sinned. You see. Doubts come from ignorance. But illumination will remove all doubts. So similarly, if the room is dark, there will be doubts in your mind, or things are here. But when you bring in light, you see everything clearly. So chinna dvaita. So dvaita, when so there is ignorance, there will be doubt. Doubt. I do not know what will happen to me in the future. You see. But a man of illumination does not have any kind of fear of the future. Because he has gone beyond time, and he has realized that his spirit is timeless, as the eternal law. Chinna dvaidha jatatmano, that is very important. He has absolute control over his mind and the thought waves of the mind. The mind cannot deceive him anymore. No, it's not possible. Therefore it says jatatmano. Jatatmano also means the senses. He has used the mind to control the senses and used his intellect, discriminating intellect to control his mind. He is self-mastery. Without self-mastery there cannot be self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is impossible without self-mastery. So, Chinna Dvaita Jatatmana, when he is established in this, then he wants to share the joy, the bliss of Brahmagyan, of knowing the truth of Brahman to the rest of his fellow human beings, those who are seeker after truth. You see. That also you have to say, he cannot convey to all people, you see, because they are not interested. You can convey any message only for people who are interested, who have a kind of recognition, appreciation, and also edification of life and character to reach that goal. So even they do not give it. This only give the method. That you only the scriptures and the teacher is something like a sign. You see, you go after a retreat called the sign is called Astoria. The Astoria is not near our retreat. You have to go farther. It is only a sign. It's a sign. So the scriptures. But Guru is not simply a sign. Guru is a transmitter. So that I have learned to see through the grace of Holy Mother. That Guru is, he is not simply a sign, giving a suggestion, he actually takes responsibility. He also gives assurance that I am your mother, that I will take care of you as long as you live a pure, blemishless, and a sincere life. So here we also find that Holy Mother. Holy Mother is looking after us. Like a mother bird looks after the fledgling. Similarly, Holy Mother, on this day, this is the time called Durga Puja time. This is the time for the worship of God as Mother. As the Mother is Ishta Devi. He is the chosen ideal. And through her grace, we will be able to realize what you call the Swarupa Gyan, knowledge of our true self, which is infinite existence, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss. Shaisha Pushanna Varada Ninang Bhavati Mukte. When the Divine Mother is the Mahashakti, is the great power, is the source of this universe. You see. But again, she is the source of wisdom. So when Mother is pleased, then all the blemishes of the mind and the heart will disappear, and the mind will move towards the goal of freedom and perfection and and it will become a fact in one's life without any shadow of doubt. Now, Holy Mother's house, people go and bring refreshments. You see. And if you have any question, I should be glad to answer. Yes. Yes. What is that? Yes.
In reading the various lives of saints, Christian, Buddhist, and including our own saints, we're led to believe that it's necessary to have visions. But I'm wondering if one can grow spiritually without having visions. Are visions then?
Swami Aseshananda writes about that. A tree is known by its fruits. You see, visions, if these visions do not transform life, purify character, ennoble the personality of the individual, then visions have no value. I have written in my book that way. Judge them by their fruits. It is the character is the only thing, flawless character. But visions are Swamiji calls the visions are milestones to progress. Visions, real visions. But purity of life, based on purity of life, there are two types of devotees. One type of devotee is called Jnani type. Jnani type of devotee will not have visions. But it is a devotional type called Bhakti type. A type of, they will have a little vision. You see, they have visions. But the visions are not the true test of spiritual enlightenment. The true test of spiritual enlightenment is character, blemishless character, and also certainty about the realization of the ultimate goal. So visions and all these things will come under called Shavikalpa Samadhi. Bhava Samadhi or Samvikalpa, these visions are there. But in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, there will not be vision of any personal God or Ishtam, anything. Yeah, one will realize what is called identity with Nirguna Brahma. But I will not say the visions are called Gopalir Ma. Say for example, Gopalir Ma is the vision of Krishna. I will not say that because she lived a pure life. So, so I will accept the visions of a person who has lived a pure life. Then it is not called imagination or mental aberration. Sometimes one gets that visions through drugs. But no person who takes drug will have a vision which is called authentic. You see. On the other hand, mind will become weak. You see. It is the mind must be strong. Character must be pure. And true visions, you see, of the Ishtam, that you call vision, that we see one in that Rasashada, in Vedanta Shara, even the visions we call the enjoyment of bliss, of vision, is an obstacle. So anyway, one should not think of these visions to be the criterion of true spirituality. The criterion of true spirituality is purity of life and blemishless character, and also to experience the wisdom which will never fail, wisdom which will always be the shield and armor of his life all throughout his days. Yes?
So you have mentioned that scientists can reach higher state of consciousness because he is concentrated on an object. But let's say if a yogi worships a statue of God, or as one yogi put it, whenever I worship a stone or a goddess, that you can spiritualize it. So what is the difference? Why scientists wouldn't...
No personal life is necessary. One who worships not a picture, you see, although picture is only is a symbol. By association of ideas, he will have to think it is, what you call any kind of idol or picture or image is called pratika. Pratika means external, is an object. Object will not do. Therefore Shankara will not accept even that if you make a picture and that God is outside, that will not do. It is hangra upasana. Therefore you have to, there are two types of meditation. Pratika means is something outside, meditating on an object. That's it. But ahangraha means how it is connected with my real self. And so it is subject is necessary. The subject. You see, when you may think of, they have got called this Shaligram, Vishnu, all pervading consciousness. Although there is a kind of stone. But they think that if you take away the name and form of the stone, it will be a wave in the ocean of consciousness. You see? And therefore, he has to dematerialize matter. There are also scientists are trying to do, but it must be transformation of life is necessary. The scientist, in order to be illumined, he will have to know that I am a scientist, it is the ego. I am Brahman. If you can realize that, will be all right. But method is meditation, that I am infinite spirit. But here scientist is thinking that I am separate from the nature or universe. I am trying to study nature and laws of nature. As long as you discover laws of nature, you are not free. Freedom means going beyond laws, you see. Anything that is bound by law of causation, you see, will be transitory, is temporal, that is momentary. Therefore, first you see, scientist, if you can think that I am conscious, but this consciousness connected with the ego. But if the scientist can, the ego shines by borrowed light. What is the original light? It is the silent screen. Call it Purusha or call it Atman, does not matter. Scientist must then has to disconnect himself from his thought waves of the mind, of his thinking process. He has to identify himself with the background consciousness. You see, the mind is what is the thought wave projecting all these pictures. I am a scientist. I have discovered called law of gravitation or law of relativity or quantum. All that, you see, is still within law. You have to go. What is my real nature? The real nature of a scientist is that my consciousness is a borrowed consciousness, but real consciousness. The consciousness is never experienced as singular, and never experienced as dual or plural. That's singular consciousness. That means infinite consciousness. When a scientist can experience, then he has to concentrate his mind, he has to focus on the reality which is behind mind. Just like you see, if you are focusing on the pictures and forget the screen, anything that you know is connected with like the pictures, not the background consciousness. Similarly, a scientist, if he can think that the ocean of consciousness has created these waves, the wave theory is there. You see, whether you the waves of the mind or they call thoughts, or waves of matter we call particle or vibration. He has to go to the background, as the great scientist Newton said. Newton said that I have carried a few pebbles in the seashore of life, but the vast sea has remained unexplored. Einstein also says we scientists know the structure, not the content of consciousness. When the scientist can know the content of consciousness, not the structure. A scientist will come here and take a picture of this house, temple. But what is going on, they are not interested, or they have not also the method to know it. So the concentrated mind of science developed, no doubt, but it is focused on the object, nature, prakriti. That will not work on the spirit, Purusha. And scientist has to experience, I am that Purusha. You shall know the truth, and truth will make you free. Not intellectual knowledge. In intellectual knowledge, there will always remain a difference between subject and object. But in spiritual knowledge, which I call transcendental knowledge, subject and object are identical. Drigdrishya, Veda, the difference between seer and the seen has disappeared. I know the truth because I am the truth. And what is truth then? It is infinite knowledge, infinite bliss, and infinite life. Therefore, ego must disappear. The disappearance of the ego and discovery of the Atman or the Purusha, the spirit, which is timeless, which is causeless, which is impersonal, and which is also universal. So that's all for the present. For the present. Yeah.